Preston Vaughn had everything a man could want. At 34, he owned half the luxury real estate in downtown Atlanta, drove cars that cost more than most people's houses, and had a different beautiful woman on his arm every week. He was the kind of man who walked into a room and everyone noticed. The kind of man who'd never heard the word no and actually accepted it. On this particular Saturday afternoon, Preston sat in an exclusive country club with his longtime friend Tyler Morrison. They'd just closed a $200 million development deal, and Preston was riding high on another victory. Tyler looked at his friend and asked him a question that would change everything. "Preston, when's the last time you actually connected with someone? Really connected?" Preston laughed, swirling the expensive bourbon in his glass. "I connect plenty. I just don't waste time pretending relationships are anything more than they are. Temporary arrangements between people who want something from each other." Tyler shook his head. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard you say, and I've known you for 15 years. "It's realistic," Preston replied. "Everyone's playing a game. I'm just honest about it." Tyler leaned forward with a look Preston recognized immediately. That look meant trouble. "Okay, then here's a proposition. You think you understand people, think you can navigate any situation with your charm and your checkbook. Prove it." Preston raised an eyebrow. "Prove what exactly?" "I dare you to date someone completely different from your usual type. Not just date, really try. 3 months. No superficial connections. No buying your way out of uncomfortable moments. Actual effort, actual vulnerability." Preston was already calculating the angle. "What do I get when I succeed?" "My lake house in Wisconsin. The one you've been trying to buy from me for 2 years. Full ownership, no strings." Preston's heart rate kicked up. That property was worth $8 million, and Tyler had refused every offer. "And if I fail?" "You won't fail. That's your problem. You'll quit. So if you quit before 3 months, you donate $2 million to a charity of my choice and admit publicly that Preston Vaughn couldn't handle a real relationship." Preston extended his hand without hesitation. "Deal. Who did you have in mind?" Tyler smiled. "I don't have anyone in mind. You have to find her yourself. But she has to be someone who actually challenges you. Someone completely different from the women you usually date. And I get to approve your choice." If you are enjoying this story, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you are watching from. Thank you. 2 weeks later, Preston was getting frustrated. Every woman he approached was too similar to his usual type, and Tyler kept rejecting them. Models, socialites, successful businesswomen who lived in his world, none of them qualified. Finally, Tyler made a suggestion. "Why don't you volunteer somewhere you'd never usually go? See what happens." That's how Preston Vaughn, billionaire real estate mogul, found himself at the West Side Community Center in a neighborhood where he owned several buildings but had never actually visited. He was supposed to help serve lunch to families in need. He showed up 20 minutes late, wearing designer jeans and a polo shirt that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. That's when he met her. Zara Williams was directing volunteers with efficient authority. She was a black woman with stunning natural hair pulled back in a ponytail, warm brown skin that glowed even under the harsh fluorescent lights, and an athletic build that spoke of someone who practiced what she preached. She ran the community center's health and wellness programs, and right now, she was wearing jeans and a center t-shirt, completely in her element and completely unimpressed by the late volunteer standing in her doorway. "You the new volunteer?" she asked without looking up from her clipboard. "You're 20 minutes late. Gloves are over there, hairnet too. You're on serving duty. Chicken or vegetables only. Let people choose their portions." Preston started to explain who he was, but Zara cut him off. "I don't care who you are outside these walls," she said, finally looking at him with sharp, intelligent eyes. "In here, you're just another pair of hands. We serve lunch in 5 minutes. Are you helping or leaving?" For the first time in years, Preston found himself speechless. This woman had no idea who he was, and more importantly, she didn't care. He put on the gloves and hairnet. The next 2 hours were humbling. Preston served lunch to families who were struggling, who thanked him with genuine gratitude for something as simple as a hot meal. He watched Zara move through the room, stopping to talk with everyone, remembering names, asking about kids and jobs and life. She wasn't performing kindness, she was living it. When the lunch service ended, Preston found Zara cleaning tables. "You did good for a first-timer," she said. "Most volunteers from your side of town don't come back after the first day." "My side of town?" Preston asked. Zara looked him up and down. Designer jeans. Watch that costs more than I make in 6 months. And that look on your face like you're slumming it for a day. Yeah, your side of town. Preston felt defensive. You don't know anything about me. I know enough, Zara replied. But her tone wasn't cruel. Just matter of fact. Look, I appreciate you volunteering. We need the help. But this neighborhood doesn't need saviors or guilt-driven rich people doing charity for tax write-offs. It needs consistent support and people who actually care. What makes you think I don't care? Preston challenged. Zara paused, studying him. Maybe you do. Or maybe you will. Come back next Saturday, and we'll see. Preston drove home that night thinking about Zara Williams. She was nothing like the women he usually spent time with. She was direct, unimpressed by wealth, and seemed to see straight through him. She was also beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or designer clothes, a natural confidence that radiated from within. The next morning, he called Tyler. I found her, Preston said. Her name is Zara, and she runs a community center. She's perfect. Tyler was skeptical. Perfect how? She's completely different from anyone I've dated. She's challenging, she's genuine, and she absolutely does not care about my money or status. She sounds too good to be true, Tyler said. What's the catch? Preston hesitated. The catch is she has no interest in dating me. At all. Tyler laughed. Oh, this is going to be entertaining. Okay, she's approved. 3 months starting now. And Preston, try actually being yourself for once. Not the persona you present to the world, your actual self. Preston returned to the community center the following Saturday. And the Saturday after that. And the one after that. At first, Zara remained professional but distant. She directed him to tasks, thanked him for his help, and kept their interactions brief. But Preston was persistent. He started arriving on time, then early. He asked questions about the community, about the programs Zara ran, about the people they served. He began to understand that this neighborhood wasn't just a collection of investment properties. It was a community of real people with real lives and real struggles. Zara noticed the change. One evening, after a particularly busy Saturday, she surprised him with a question. Why do you keep coming back? She asked as they stacked chairs together. Preston considered lying, giving her some noble reason about giving back to the community. But something about Zara made him want to tell the truth. Honestly, it started as part of a bet with my friend. He challenged me to date someone different from my usual type for 3 months. Someone who would actually challenge me. Zara stopped stacking chairs and turned to face him, her expression unreadable. And you thought you'd find someone here? She asked quietly. I thought I'd find someone somewhere, Preston admitted. But then I met you, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since. Zara was silent for a long moment. Preston braced himself for anger, for disgust at his honesty about the bet. Instead, Zara laughed. Not a mocking laugh, a genuine, surprised laugh. Well, at least you're honest about being dishonest, she said. That's almost refreshing. I know how it sounds, Preston said quickly. And I know I started coming here for the wrong reasons. But that's not why I keep coming back. I keep coming back because being here, being around you, makes me want to be better than I am. Zara studied his face for a long moment. You really mean that, don't you? I do, Preston said. And he realized it was true. Okay, Zara said finally. Here's the deal. I'll have dinner with you. One dinner. But not at some fancy restaurant where you're trying to impress me. Somewhere normal. And you're going to tell me the truth about who you really are, not who you pretend to be. Preston agreed immediately. Their first real date was at a small Ethiopian restaurant in Zara's neighborhood. Preston had never had Ethiopian food before, and Zara taught him how to eat with injera, laughing at his clumsy attempts. Over dinner, Preston told her about growing up poor in rural Georgia, about working 3 jobs to put himself through college, about building his business from nothing. He told her about the loneliness that came with success, about how the higher he climbed, the more isolated he felt. Zara listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions. Then it was her turn. Zara told him about being adopted by a Chinese-American mother and black father who taught her that family was about love, not biology. She told him about studying public health, about choosing to work in underserved communities because that's where the work mattered most. She told him about losing her father to a heart attack 2 years ago, about how it motivated her to help others take better care of their health. My dad was only 58, Zara said softly. He ignored the warning signs because he was too busy taking care of everyone else. By the time he went to the doctor, it was too late. I promised myself I'd dedicate my life to making sure other families didn't lose someone they love because healthcare wasn't accessible. Preston reached across the table and took her hand. I'm sorry about your father. He raised an incredible daughter. Zara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you. He would have liked you, I think. Once he got past the expensive watch and the designer jeans, they both laughed, and something shifted between them. This wasn't just about a bed anymore. This was real. Over the next month, Preston and Zara spent more and more time together. Preston started volunteering not just on Saturdays, but during the week too. He began using his business connections to help the community center, arranging donations and sponsorships from companies that would have ignored Zara's calls. But he also learned to step back and let Zara lead. He realized that the community didn't need his money as much as it needed his respect and genuine engagement. Zara introduced him to her world: community potlucks, youth basketball games, health workshops. Preston found himself enjoying these simple gatherings more than any high society gala he'd ever attended. In turn, Preston introduced Zara to parts of his world. She met Tyler, who pulled Preston aside and said, "You're different around her. Better. Don't screw this up." But it wasn't all smooth. They had their first real fight when Preston tried to surprise Zara by paying off the community center's building loan without consulting her. "I was trying to help," Preston argued when Zara confronted him, furious. "Help would have been asking what we needed." Zara shot back. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. You using your money to control situations instead of being a genuine partner. We're not one of your real estate deals, Preston." "That's not what I was doing," Preston protested. But even as he said it, he realized she was partially right. "Wasn't it?" Zara asked, her voice softer now, but no less firm. "Preston, I care about you. I really do. But if this is going to work, you need to understand that you can't fix everything with money. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can give is your time, your presence, your willingness to listen and learn." Preston sat down, the fight draining out of him. "You're right. I'm sorry. I've spent so long solving problems by throwing resources at them that I forgot there are other ways to help. Better ways." Zara sat beside him. "I know you meant well, but I need a partner who respects me enough to include me in decisions that affect my life's work. Can I fix this?" Preston asked. "Yes," Zara said, "by learning from it." As they approached the 2-month mark, Preston realized something terrifying. He was falling in love with Zara. Real love, not the shallow infatuation he'd felt before, but something deeper that made him want to be better, do better, live differently. One evening, they were walking through the neighborhood after a community center event. It was early autumn, and the air had just started to cool. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Zara said suddenly. Preston thought carefully. "I'm terrified of ending up alone. I've built this empire, achieved everything I said I would, and sometimes I look around at my empty penthouse and wonder what it's all for. Every relationship I've had has been surface level because I was afraid if anyone really knew me, they'd realize I'm not as impressive as I pretend to be." Zara squeezed his hand. "You're more impressive when you're real than when you're pretending." "What about you?" Preston asked. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I'm scared of caring too much. After my dad died, I threw myself into work because it was safer than risking my heart. When you first told me about the bed, part of me was relieved because it meant I didn't have to take this seriously. But now," she trailed off. "But now," Preston prompted gently. "But now I'm terrified because I do care. A lot. And I don't know how to protect myself if this doesn't work out." Preston stopped walking and turned to face her. "Zara, I know I started this for the wrong reasons. I know I came to that community center because of a bet and because I was looking for someone to date as a challenge. But that's not what this is anymore. You've changed me. You've made me question everything I thought mattered and realize what actually does matter." "Preston," Zara started, but he continued. "I'm in love with you," he said simply. "Not because you're a challenge or because you're different from other women I've dated. I'm in love with you because you're you. Because you're brilliant and compassionate, and you call me out when I'm being an idiot. Because being with you makes me want to be the man you see in me instead of the man I've been pretending to be." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm in love with you too, and that scares me more than I can say." "Why does it scare you?" Preston asked, wiping a tear from her cheek. "Because I can see a future with you. A real future. And if I lose you," She couldn't finish the sentence. You're not going to lose me, Preston said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. They kissed then, standing on a street corner in a neighborhood Preston used to only see as investment potential but now saw as home. The third month arrived, and with it, complications. Tyler called Preston to remind him that the 3 months were almost up. So you've won, Tyler said. I'll have the deed to the lake house drawn up. You proved you could do it. Preston felt sick. Tyler, I need to tell you something. This stopped being about the bet a long time ago. I know, Tyler said, surprising him. I've seen you two together. I've watched you change. That was actually the real challenge, Preston. Not dating someone different, but letting yourself be changed by someone. So there never was a bet? Preston asked. Oh, the bet was real. And you won. But the prize isn't the lake house. The prize is realizing that the best things in life aren't the things you win. They're the things you earn by being vulnerable enough to let people in. Preston was silent, processing this. There's just one problem, Tyler continued. Does Zara know the 3 months are up? Does she know you've won? Preston's stomach dropped. He'd been so caught up in his feelings, in building a real relationship, that he'd stopped thinking about the timeline. But Zara knew about the original bet. What would she think when the 3 months ended and she realized he'd gotten what he wanted? That evening, Preston planned to tell Zara everything. They were having dinner at her apartment, a cozy space filled with photos and plants and life, so different from his sterile penthouse. But before he could say anything, Zara's phone rang. It was her mother. From Zara's expression, something was wrong. Mom, slow down, Zara said, her face going pale. What happened? Preston watched as Zara listened, her hand trembling. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Zara said and hung up. What is it? Preston asked immediately. It's my brother, Zara said, her voice shaking. He collapsed at basketball practice. They think it might be his heart. They're running tests now. I'll drive you, Preston said immediately, grabbing his keys. They rushed to the hospital, where Zara's mother and sister were already waiting. Preston stayed back, giving the family space, but Zara kept looking over at him, drawing strength from his presence. After hours of tests, the doctor came out with news. Zara's 27-year-old brother Marcus had the same genetic heart condition that killed their father. It was treatable, but he'd need surgery and lifestyle changes. Zara broke down then, all the fear she'd been holding pouring out. Preston held her as she cried, not trying to fix it or make it better, just being there. I can't lose him too, Zara sobbed. I can't lose another person I love. You won't, Preston said firmly. Your brother is young and strong, and they caught this early. He's going to be okay. Over the next week, Preston showed up in ways he never had before. He sat with Zara in hospital waiting rooms. He brought coffee and food. He made sure her community center programs continued running while she focused on her family. He didn't try to throw money at the problem. He just showed up, consistently and genuinely. Zara's mother pulled him aside one day. My daughter loves you, you know. Preston smiled. I love her too, Mrs. Chin Williams. I can tell, she said. And more importantly, I can tell you're good for her. You make her happy, but you also challenge her to accept help, which is something she's always struggled with. She's made me better too, Preston said. She's shown me what actually matters. Then don't let her go, Zara's mother said simply. 2 weeks after Marcus's surgery, when he was recovering well and Zara could finally breathe again, Preston took her to his penthouse. He'd been planning this conversation, but after everything that had happened, he was terrified. They stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta's skyline. Zara, I need to tell you something, Preston began. This sounds serious, Zara said, trying to keep her tone light, but he could see the worry in her eyes. Do you remember when I told you about the bet? About the 3-month challenge? Zara nodded slowly. The 3 months ended last week, Preston said. I won. Tyler's giving me the property I wanted. Zara's face went carefully neutral. Congratulations. Zara, please let me finish, Preston said, taking her hands. I won the bet, but that's not what matters. What matters is that somewhere in the middle of trying to prove I could date someone different, I fell completely in love with you. What matters is that you've changed my entire life. I look at this penthouse now, and it feels empty without you in it. I look at my business, and I wonder what I'm building it for if I don't have someone to share it with. Preston, what are you saying? Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Preston pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. I'm saying that I don't want to date you anymore. I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. I want to keep volunteering at the community center and arguing with you when I'm being an idiot and learning from you how to be better. I want to be there for your family, and I want you to be part of mine. Zara Williams, will you marry me? Tears streamed down Zara's face. You're serious? This isn't about the bet or proving something. This is about me realizing that the woman I was supposed to date as a challenge became the woman I can't imagine living without. This is about me understanding that love isn't something you win. It's something you choose every single day. Zara laughed through her tears. You've learned well. Is that a yes? Preston asked, holding his breath. Yes, Zara said. Yes, I'll marry you. Not because you're rich or successful or any of that, but because you showed up when it mattered. Because you're willing to grow and change. Because you love me for who I am, not who you want me to be. Preston slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as the Atlanta skyline glittered behind them. 6 months later, Preston and Zara got married in the community center where they'd first met. It wasn't the fancy society wedding Preston's world expected. It was a celebration with the community, with the families they'd worked with Zara's family and Preston's business partners all mixed together in a beautiful, chaotic expression of two worlds becoming one. Tyler gave a speech at the reception. I challenged Preston to date someone different for 3 months. What I didn't expect was that he'd find someone who would completely transform him. Preston's not just different around Zara, he's better. He's found his purpose beyond profit. And watching that transformation has been the greatest privilege of my friendship. Preston stood and raised his glass. 6 months ago, I took a bet because I thought I could win at anything. I was arrogant enough to think I could date someone different without being changed myself. Zara proved me wrong in the best possible way. She showed me that the best things in life aren't won. They're earned through showing up, being vulnerable, and loving someone enough to let them change you. He turned to Zara. You challenged me to be better, and you loved me enough to believe I could be. This isn't the end of a 3-month bet. This is the beginning of our life together. Zara stood beside him, radiant in her wedding dress. Preston came into my life as a volunteer who was clearly out of his element. I thought he'd last one Saturday. Instead, he stayed. He showed up. He listened. He learned. And he loved me enough to let himself be transformed. That's not weakness. That's the greatest strength there is. They kissed as the community center erupted in applause. A year later, Preston sold his penthouse and moved into a home in Zara's neighborhood. He restructured his business to focus on affordable housing development and community investment. He still made millions, but now that money had purpose beyond accumulation. Zara's brother Marcus had fully recovered and now volunteered at the community center, teaching young people about heart health and the importance of listening to your body. And Preston kept his promise. He showed up every single day, choosing Zara, choosing growth, choosing love over pride. One evening, as they walked through their neighborhood holding hands, Zara looked up at him and said, "Do you ever regret taking that bet?" Preston thought about the man he'd been a year ago, arrogant, isolated, measuring success in dollars and deals. Then he looked at the woman beside him, at the community around them, at the life they were building together. "Regret it?" he said, pulling her close. "That bet was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because I won it, but because I lost myself long enough to find something real." "That's very poetic for a real estate mogul," Zara teased. "I learned from the best," Preston said, kissing her forehead. They continued walking as the sun set over their neighborhood, two people who'd been brought together by a challenge but stayed together by choice. Preston had spent years believing that success meant winning every bet, closing every deal, never showing weakness. Zara taught him that real success meant being vulnerable enough to lose control, humble enough to admit when you're wrong, and brave enough to let someone change you. He'd taken a bet thinking he'd win a lake house. Instead, he'd won a life worth living. And that was better than any prize he could have imagined. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been challenged to step outside your comfort zone and ended up finding something beautiful you never expected? Drop transform in the comments if you believe the best growth comes from being vulnerable enough to change. And if this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about love, transformation, and what really matters in life.